Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Women in Science and Healthcare Network virtual series event. My name is Jovelyn Castellanos, Director of the Women in Science and Healthcare Network. On the call, we also have Lindsay Settles, who's part of the director as well for Women in Science and Healthcare Network. I'd like to begin by giving a special thank you to our supporters, Lyda Hill Philanthropies, Biotech at Pegasus Park, and Health Wildcatters. A special thank you also to Dr. Hubert Stachek for his continuous support. The Women in Science and Healthcare Network is part of a group that allows women who are interested in starting an entrepreneurial venture. In prior years, we have held WISH hackathons that have brought entrepreneurship within the grasp of many entrepreneurial-minded scientists and practitioners. The WISH network is a continuation of that type of support for women who wish to launch a healthcare-related startup. And today I would like to introduce our very special guest, Mariza Hardin, who is co-founder and chief operating officer at Zocalo Health. Mariza is a healthcare leader with more than 15 years of policy experience. She founded Zocalo Health in 2021 with a vision to enhance the primary care experience and overall health journey for Latino families. Prior to founding Zocalo Health, Mariza was on the founding team for American Care in AWS Health and Human Services vertical, where she led business development initiatives for Amazon customers. Prior to Amazon, she focused on developing innovative solutions for Medicare and Medicaid populations for companies such as Omada and Alera Health Optum. Her experience in Medicaid and Medicare started during her tenure at the U.S. Health and Human Service Department, where she led policy programs for health information exchange. She holds a master's degree in health policy from the George Washington University and currently lives with her family in the greater Seattle area. Mariza, thank you for your time and expertise this evening as you share your entrepreneurial journey. Women are striving to grow in the healthcare industry. Studies show that 10% of healthcare startups are owned and founded by women. I would like to start off by congratulating you for such an incredible journey, which I am deeply inspired by as you co-founded Zocalo Health, as you aim to improve healthcare services for Latino populations.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Devlin, for having me. I am so honored to be here and certainly honored to share more of my journey in founding a startup in healthcare, as well as being a woman in health and science. So happy to jump into questions.
Absolutely. So today we're going to do more of a fireside chat, and we're just going to be giving questions, and we'll open it up at the very end for our audience to ask any questions that they may also have. So we'll start off by tell us a little bit about your background and journey before co-founding Zocalo Health at Amazon Care and your previous experience at Alera Health.
Sure. So I'll take you back even further because I think all of it is important context. And I will say that I've had maybe 15 plus years of healthcare experience. So I am definitely bringing in a lot of different perspectives and years of experience, which I think is important when you start to consider whether you want to start a company or not. So I went to school in New Mexico. I was born in rural New Mexico in a city called Roswell, went to school at the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque, and was given a fellowship very early in my college career to work with the governor of New Mexico. And that fellowship was really focused on how do we build Medicare and Medicaid into one program that really helps the most vulnerable populations, would now become known as the dual eligible program. But at the time, it was very new, and it was a new program that I was working with the governor's office to build. That was really the first opportunity where I got a front seat to how do we use policy at a state level to really impact the way people access care, their experience, and certainly outcomes. It was amazing to see all these programs that were being innovated at the state level start to reach the community level. And so I took a strong interest in health policy and went to get my master's in public health from George Washington University in DC. And from there, got access to working with the Obama administration in his first year in office in developing what would now be known as the Obamacare, or pieces of the healthcare reform that were really focused on health information technology. And that was an amazing job because I got to not only work with an incredibly innovative administration, but also getting to work with technology that was very new at the time. So this was, I'm going to date myself a little bit, but this was a time when electronic health records were really taking off and physicians didn't know how to use them. So we were giving grants to communities and incentivizing physicians to use electronic health records, incentivizing them to exchange data with other health systems across states, across state boundaries. At the time, it was very innovative technology to send data back and forth. Unfortunately, 15 years later, we're still struggling with a lot of that interoperability, but different topic. And so again, I got this amazing opportunity to build something, and building something from scratch is something I'm incredibly passionate about. I love taking a big problem and really dissecting it down to small pieces and working through those small pieces to build an infrastructure that scales to something much bigger and much larger. So I got amazing experience working for the federal government, then took that experience and worked in the commercial sector with Alere Health, which is a chronic condition management company, which again, it was one of the first companies to pioneer telehealth visits and care coordination over the telephone and using some of the technologies that we take for granted today. We sold that company to Optum, and then I went on to start another program called at a company called Omada, which was focused on diabetes prevention, and I helped scale their Medicare business line. So again, thinking about how do we bring innovation to some of the most vulnerable populations, and had an amazing experience of how do you design a business that a Medicare health plan would actually purchase. So that all led me to have this incredible amount of experience in understanding the Medicaid landscape as well as the Medicare landscape and how that works at the federal level and at the state level, which I think are going to be two important themes that I want to leave with people today. Understanding the way money moves through the US healthcare system was so crucial in every step of my career, because that helped me think through how do you build a business around that. And that will continue to be a really important asset that any entrepreneur brings to the healthcare industry, is really understanding how things get paid for and how programs get funded. So I got this amazing call one afternoon from a recruiter at Amazon. And Amazon, as you know, is very much a tech company that's focused on what, from my experience, getting you packages in a couple hours. And so I was really intrigued by why they were calling me. Fast forward to getting, a great phone screen, being flown out to Seattle to interview for a very confidential job that nobody told me anything about. And then getting this amazing life-changing job offer that required me to move me and my new family over to Seattle to start a job at Amazon that I didn't have a title, I didn't have a job description, I certainly didn't know what I was working on, but I knew they wanted me for my expertise and experience in healthcare. So I made the leap, took the job, and was part of the founding team of a program called Amazon Care. And Amazon Care was Amazon's really early entry into healthcare delivery. It was a telehealth system that we designed for Amazon employees across the country. And it was using very innovative technology. We were able to connect you with a physician within 30 seconds. We were able to send a nurse to your home to do vaccines and do some of the things that can be done in the comfort of your home. We had the backing of Amazon Web Services, which is this huge, data infrastructure where we could do a lot of amazing personalizations and data-driven decision-making. It was kind of my dream come true, because you were working in this ecosystem of a lot of amazing resources and Amazon's budget. So it was like building a startup in a very well-resourced environment. And I had access to amazing talent, these amazing brains that really wanted to innovate around some of the major pain points in healthcare. And I feel like I don't have an MBA, but I feel like I got my MBA at Amazon because, one, the culture was so rigorous, so competitive. You really had to show up every day and deliver. And you had to build trust within the leadership. And I was fortunate to be one of the few people on the team that really, again, understood the landscape of healthcare, understood how things move in healthcare, how things are funded, and really helped to shape some of the thinking behind the go-to-market strategy. How do you build a business in healthcare? We launched Amazon Care a year later in Seattle, and then that program grew. That program has since been sunsetted, and Amazon has some larger ambitions in healthcare. But then I also went on to start another business within Amazon on the AWS side that was focused on health and human services. And this was at the point of the pandemic when everybody was getting COVID lab tests. States didn't have a way to send lab results to Department of Health. Despite all of the amazing innovation in healthcare, our departments of public health are a little bit far behind when it comes to technology. So they were coming to AWS to help really innovate and how to get a lot of that data into their data systems and have meaningful reporting. So again, an amazing opportunity to start a new business, to scale a new business at a time of need by understanding how the healthcare system worked. It was at that point where we were, 2 years into the pandemic. I was getting the front seat at some of these amazing technologies that Amazon had, that AWS has, and I was continuing to hear stories of communities that were getting left behind when it comes to care delivery. So the pandemic really put a magnifying glass on some of the disparities that our communities experience when it comes to getting a doctor's appointment or getting a vaccine or getting preventative services. And it was a huge disconnect around all the innovative things we were working on and all this amazing technology, and the basic infrastructure of primary care was falling apart. And so I had actually met my co-founder now, Eric, as a colleague at Amazon. He was one of the few other Latinos in the room at Amazon. We kind of bonded over our Texas roots. He's from Houston. My family's from San Antonio. And we started really sharing lived experiences of having to, help navigate the healthcare system for our families and having to design all this innovative, products and solutions for other communities while our own was getting left behind. And so that was really the start of, how do we take this passion? How do we take all these years of experience that we have combined and build a company that's really focused on the patient and their needs, and starting to use this technology in a very cautious way while really thinking about the patient experience first. And so we founded Zocalo Health after leaving our jobs at Amazon. We're fortunate to raise funding almost immediately. We raised $3 million within a couple months of us starting the company. And from there, we just went to work on designing a healthcare system that's focused on the Latino patient, thinking about their barriers to access to care and those navigation issues, and really thinking about who are the people we want to have in place in this new healthcare delivery system, and then how do we get this delivery system to as many people as possible, leveraging what we know exists from a technology standpoint, but also from a community-based standpoint. So Zocalo Health was born in 2021. We have been in 3 markets now. We serve the market. We launched in California, now Texas, and recently Washington. Anybody in those states can use our service. We are a virtual first primary care service that has a direct to consumer pricing model, meaning you don't need insurance to use us. You don't need to enroll in these complicated programs. You don't have to give us any kind of employment statements. You just pay a very flat, transparent fee to see a team of culturally aligned and trained physicians. So we are an early stage company. And as you know, in healthcare, time and market matters. And we're still building that time and market. We're still working very hard to build the trust of the communities that we're serving. And we still have a lot of work to do to build that trust, to gain that trust from our patients, and of course, scale the company to more states. So Javelin, that was a very long explanation of kind of how I got to where I am and how Zocalo Health was born.
Absolutely. No, that was incredible. Just a beautiful journey, really understanding the disparities that existed as you understood really the landscape of healthcare, how basically Medicaid, Medicare, all of that works, and also understanding the ways that it was also being paid, right? And so you really got a really good understanding of all of this early on in your process, and you were an entrepreneur, like they like to call it, within Amazon. And so as you kind of went through this journey, can you just give us for those on the call who might not know what Zocalo Health is, just give us an idea or like a short recap of what Zocalo Health does and their services?
Yeah, absolutely. So we call ourselves a virtual primary care delivery system focused on the Latino patient. And our main mission is to bring back the Latino patient into primary care. And so for those of you who understand kind of the healthcare ecosystem, there's a lot that can be done around prevention and health management when it comes to primary care. And based on all the things we've been through in the pandemic and a lot of the reshaping of the healthcare industry, and of course, health insurance plans and the way they kind of build networks, people have really forgotten to use primary care. And it's for good reason. And those reasons are it takes a really long time to get an appointment. You see a different doctor every time you go in. You don't know who to call. Usually when you do call, you have to talk to 5 different nurses and no one knows who you are. And it's a complicated system. So people forego primary care and either show up in the emergency room when something goes wrong, or, we're calling specialists and having to have some very in-depth care that could have been prevented at the primary care level. So we very much focused on the primary care system and how to bring people back into it. And we do that by having what we call a multidisciplinary care team. And that care team is led by a community health worker, a promotora, that lives in the community, knows the community really well, and will be your navigator. So think about if you were, a person in your family that really knows healthcare, you're probably the one that's making appointments for your parents. You're probably the one that's reading the EOBs that get sent from the insurance companies. And you're helping your family to navigate this complicated healthcare system. Now, imagine that you don't speak the language, you're not from the country, and you have some trust issues when it comes to giving out your information and filling out forms because you've had a really bad experience in the past. And that's the experience that most Latinos in the US experience today. They forego healthcare because there's a ton of unknowns. It's super complicated. And we wanted to really mitigate that from the very beginning. So the promotora plays this amazing role in building trust with that patient, helping them navigate, just answering very basic questions around, what doctor do I need to see for this? Do I need to go to an emergency room for this? They're really good at just being that first phone call for you or text message. And then once we, pair you with the promotora, then you have access to this beautiful network of physicians that are, of course, bilingual, but also understand the community, understand some of the barriers to healthcare, and understand that you may want 5 minutes of your physician time, or you may want 30 minutes of your physician's time. And we have built a model that allows for that. And bringing people into primary care means making it making it as accessible as possible. And so we started with a virtual service, and you just go online, you sign up for an appointment, and usually we can get you in same day. And it's at your convenience, from your home, from your office, from your school, and you get to talk to a physician for as long as you want. And that physician is going to be probably the physician you see again the next time you come in, and we start to build those relationships over time. And not having an insurance requirement meant that we could see anybody. So we see, grandmothers and grandfathers and grandchildren and everybody in between, so that we are treating families and not just the person. And what we've noticed is that the current healthcare system is really siloing people, because you have, Jovelyn has this insurance, maybe your mom has this insurance, so you can go see these doctors, but your mom has to see a different set of doctors. And that's just not how the Latino community works. We work as a family. We're a family unit, and we're bringing back that concept of like, let's treat the whole family. Let's get everybody engaged in health, and let's see if we can remove some of those barriers by introducing technology into the scene. So as I mentioned, very early stage company, we wanted to start with virtual first, just to get into communities, just to get people access to amazing physicians. And as we grow and scale, we will start building in-person clinics. We'll start building in-person experiences. But in the short time we've been in market, we've made such a big impact on communities that have not had access to primary care and have had to wait for months to get access to physicians to get them in same day and get them the care that they need and deserve. So Zocalo right now is very focused on how to get people access to great physicians, not keep them waiting. And I see a question in the chat that I just would love to respond to as they come in. How much does it cost a month? Great question. So we have very flexible options. We charge $40, and $40 gets you access to a membership at Zocalo, and that membership gets you access to your promotora for unlimited questions and navigation, and then you get access to our physicians who do your virtual visits. If you don't want to commit to a membership, we have options for $50, and you just pay that one-time fee. And we do have special lab pricing for any labs you have. So if you don't have insurance, we have negotiated very low prices with some very common labs in your community so that those are accessible. And if you get a membership, some of those labs are covered at no cost to you. I think that maybe answers your question. Feel free to send more detailed questions, but we've tried to make the infrastructure as simple as possible to understand. And as we grow, we are starting to take insurance. So if you don't want to pay the $40 or the $50, and that's not in your budget, we would accept a lot of common insurance programs. So again, as a company, you start small and figure out how you can make the biggest impact and start to make those incremental changes in your business model to accommodate a larger group of people. And question about medications. Love this question because everybody is paying too much for medications. We do have partnerships with Mark Cuban's Cost Plus Drugs, and we have a lot of great tools that we usually save people a lot of money with medications. So our promotoras are trained to help you find the cheapest option, and a lot of times we can find you monthly subscriptions or coupons to save money on prescriptions.
Wonderful. Okay, well, so thank you for that amazing overview of what Zocalo Health is and the services it provides from a cultural competent perspective. I think it's also very important the way that you're incorporating the family perspective and also that community health worker to really allow that health navigation, as we know that's one of the disparities that exist when trying to access healthcare. Our next question is, as an accomplished founder, innovator, community health leader, and leader in the digital health innovation space, what advice do you have for women who are wanting to start their entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, I saw this question on the prep and definitely spent a lot of time thinking about this because when you're an entrepreneur, it's hard to see yourself as a successful entrepreneur because there's always something that you want to do better. There's always a bigger goal. You're always trying to scale. So I just appreciate the context of the question and framing me as a experienced and successful entrepreneur. I think, as I think about my journey, everything that I did before starting the company was very purposeful to getting me where I am today. And I think I am doing my life's work right now because I put in the time to do these other jobs that were maybe not my favorite jobs. And I learned so much from all of them. Like I said, I have 15 years of experience, and I don't think that much is needed to start your own company, but everything I did leading up to this was an important skill set that I use today. And as an entrepreneur, you are doing absolutely everything. You are doing HR, you're doing legal, you're doing business, you're doing marketing, you are wearing 5,000 hats in a matter of 8 to 10 hours a day. And then you probably take off those hats and you're either a mom or a sister or a daughter or a caretaker, and you're having to put on those hats. And so decision fatigue is real. There's a lot expected of you every single day. There's no time off per se. And so I say that to kind of place context on for those wanting to, get into entrepreneurship or thinking about it in your future. take the jobs that don't seem glamorous, or talk to people that are doing those jobs that are not glamorous, because you as an entrepreneur will do them, and you don't want those small in the weeds tasks to wear you down, because it's part of building a company. You do the less glamorous stuff so you can talk to people and have opportunity to share your journey, and do the more glamorous stuff. But never say no to learning about the ins and outs of a company. If an intern wants to talk to you about their role, sit down and listen. If you have an opportunity to sit down with the business people, sit down and listen to them. I used to avoid financial models because I just didn't understand them. And that always like followed me along in every position. And finally I was like, okay, I need to learn this so that at least I can be at the table and have an opinion. And I think that's important. There should, if there's a topic you're scared of, or if there's a topic that you tend to shy away from, you don't have to master it, but find somebody who will help you break it down, and find somebody who is not afraid to just explain it to you in plain language and let you ask questions, because those things catch up to you as an entrepreneur. You're expected to know a little bit of everything, but you're also not expected to be an expert. So get yourself in a space where you're comfortable enough to be a part of the conversation, have a seat at the table, and then ask the smart questions, and then know when you need to bring in the smart people. That's probably the biggest lesson I've learned as an entrepreneur, is that I can't do everything, and I certainly don't know everything. And there's a time and a place to bring in the subject matter experts to do what they do best. And then you have to know enough to provide them direction. You have to know enough about the vision of your company to ask them to do the right things. And, this all comes with experience, and this all comes with just being open to learning. And I think that's probably my biggest advice to people wanting to become entrepreneurs, is just don't be afraid to continue to learn and to ask questions and to put yourself in uncomfortable positions, because I would say 90% of being an entrepreneur is being a little bit of uncomfortable and trying, new things and learning new things.
Absolutely. It's like learn, grow, and repeat, right?
Yeah, I love that.
So maybe, I know you kind of already touched on this. What is one of the biggest obstacles you have faced, and how did you overcome it? I know you briefly mentioned decision fatigue. Do you have anything else that you want to add or expand on?
Yeah, I mean, so many things about building a company are hard. But as women, we can do hard things. We're built to do hard things, and you tackle them one at a time. And I think when you build a company, there's a lot of decisions that you have to make that will either impact the company's long-term trajectory or impact kind of the short-term emotions and feelings of your team and of the people you work with. And balancing those two is very difficult. And so you always are making a decision of, do I make a decision that's going to impact the company and keep us growing and scaling, or do I make a decision that's going to benefit the team that I have here now and their well-being and the experience they have in working for this company? And making that decision is incredibly hard. So you're making people decisions every day, you're making company decisions every day. And if you're lucky, those two never really conflict with each other, but that's rare. So I think for me, some of the challenges have just been around, making business decisions based on data and not emotions all the time. And then there are times where I do make a lot of business decisions based on emotions, because that's just who I am and that's how I operate. So it's just kind of knowing when to switch on your emotions, when to switch on your data-driven decisions, and finding a balance between both. Because I think as women, we care about the people that we let into our inner circle. We care about the people we hire for our companies. We care about the people that become our customers and that put their trust in us. But we also care about the growth of our business and making sure that it is viable beyond, 1 to 2 years. So oftentimes those conflict, and you have to really not let that bring you down, because it can be incredibly stressful mentally and physically. And you make those decisions day in and day out, and you have to find balance, and you have to trust your instincts on how you're going to make those decisions.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. I know you kind of mentioned at the very beginning, when you first started, you raised 3 million in seed funding. What advice do you have or insights that you would like to share with the group on just your journey on seeking funding or doing pitch practices or anything
Yeah.
like that? It can range from funding to your pitch practices or anything at all that you'd like to share.
Yeah. So this is my first startup. I had no idea how to raise money. I had no idea how to pitch to investors. Um, I had to learn a lot of it, fortunately, through my co-founder, Eric, who has started companies before and has raised money. And he was very much a mentor in real time to me as we started to develop our pitch decks and started pitching to investors. And one of the, I think, most eye-opening thing for me is investors at the seed stage want to know you as a founder. They know that, the company is still an early stage, it's still ideation, it still could go 5 different ways. Seed stage is a very unique point in your company where it's an idea, but you still have to build a product, you still have to build an experience, you still have to build a business model. And so investors at the seed stage want to know you. They want to know your experience. They want to know why you are the person to lead this company. They want to know what you bring to the table, what your skill set is, what your personality is. If you have a co-founder, they want to know how well you work with your co-founder, how you communicate, all these things that I wasn't ready to really talk about, but that's really what they're interested in, because they're investing in you, because you're going to take this idea and you're going to grow it into a company that's hopefully going to give them a return on their investment. And so in those early pitches, I was very focused on, let me get the talking points out. Let me make sure I talk about the problem and the statement and the solution. And I have all this data. I'm very data driven. But at the end of the day, they just wanted to know me and they wanted to know Eric. And so Eric would have to ping me on Slack and be like, loosen up a little bit. You can smile. It's okay. They want to know you. And that was very, an eye-opening experience for me, because I went to those pitches just very robotic, and I need to get all this data out. I did all this research, and I need to get it all out to them. And of course they're interested, but most investors already know about the problem better than you do, because they've done their homework and they've done their due diligence, and they are trying to get to know you as a founder. So I think, my advice to people thinking about going in the seed stage or in that seed stage is, get very comfortable with your personal story and your why. Why are you starting this company? What do you bring to the table? Whether it's lived experience, whether it's a problem you're trying to solve, whether you have the right team already assembled, they want to hear that, because they get pitched dozens of times a week, and they may have heard a pitch about your topic or your company 5 other times, but there's going to be something about you and the way you present yourself and the confidence you have that sticks with them. And I think that was really important to me, is I had to come to the table with confidence, because I had to make sure that they knew that I was the best person to run this company, because as everyone here knows, women founders are in the minority, especially women of color. And there is just not enough women founders, because a lot of systematic reasons. But every time I pitched, I was pitching to a group of men, and I had to show up with so much confidence, because the minute I didn't have that confidence, they could feel it and they could sense it, and they would just pile on questions. So I had to learn very quickly, show up with confidence, know that you are the right person for that job, and you are the right person to lead this company. In fact, you're the only person that can lead this company based on your experience and your knowledge. And so you have to show up with understanding your story, understanding your why, and understanding why you're the best person and the only person to lead this company into the next stage.
Wow. Confidence and really showing up, like you said. And I know
Yeah.
that Part of my next question, one of the important qualities or characteristics that you need to work on or continue to show up with as a women entrepreneur. So thank you for sharing that piece.
Absolutely.
How do you stay on top of industry trends? You know, healthcare is often a very dynamic industry, but what do you do, or what are your insights, or how do you like to stay on top of industry trends?
Yeah, great question. When you're an entrepreneur and you are very time conscious, I am one of my superpowers is being time efficient, and I can do a lot in a short amount of time and then still be a mom to a 4-year-old and still figure things out. What I do struggle with is staying on top of industry trends, because as you mentioned, healthcare is one of the slowest moving industries to adopt innovation, to adopt thoughtful ideas, but it's also constantly changing. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the talk, you have to understand the regulatory system to really make a business in healthcare. You have to understand what the federal government is doing to reimburse primary care if you're building in primary care. You have to understand what Medicaid's doing at the state level to build a go-to-market around Medicaid customers. That stuff matters, and you have to know enough about the changing landscape to ask the right questions, to get the right experts in the room. And so I'm fortunate to use a lot of my time to work with consultants that have expertise in this area, but I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn and I am on LinkedIn reading what people are posting, reaching out. That's one of the things I've had to become really comfortable with as an entrepreneur, is just making cold outreaches to people and saying, I noticed you posted about this. This is a topic I'm really interested in. Do you have time to talk, or can I send you some questions? And sometimes I don't get a response, and sometimes I do. And that becomes a very fruitful connection. So, it's not easy to stay on top of industry trends, but I do my best using, LinkedIn as my primary tool, surrounding myself with very smart people, and doing my best to always be curious and always be learning, because things change. And the minute you take your pedal off of being, curious, then you're left out of the room and the discussion. So one of my pieces of advice that I give to, people that I work with is practice your listening skills. Because I think in a world where we are doing Zoom meetings constantly, where we're on Slack all day, it's easy just to want to get information out and just to have an agenda in your mind and throw a lot of words out, and you don't take the time to really listen to people. And so another superpower of mine is being a really active listener. And so a lot of people will tell you what they're thinking, what their agenda is, how they feel about topics, if you listen and you watch body language and you ask really good questions. And that's kind of how you learn and absorb the world around you in a virtual setting. So, LinkedIn is my go-to tool. I get a ton of newsletters in my inbox. I'm happy to share some of the top ones that I love, but and I'm also part of some amazing Slack communities, which I think is another great way to get a lot of information in a short amount of time, because people kind of distill it for you, and you can have a great discussion and ask questions, and you be as active as you want to be and as you have time to allow.
Thank you. I know we have a couple of questions in the chat, and we have 2 more questions left, so that we can hop on to those 2 questions. So knowing what you know now, is there anything you wish you knew or would have done differently when first starting out?
Yes. So, first starting out as an entrepreneur, I wouldn't have done anything different, because we certainly made mistakes in the beginning. Everybody does. And the mistakes that you make only build a foundation for a stronger company. As long as you are willing to acknowledge they were mistakes, take the time to dissect why that mistake was made, how it could have been made differently, and then course correct, that makes your company stronger. So there is absolutely nothing, I regret from the beginning that I would have done over again. I've learned a lot. I become better every day. I think one of the things that I tell everybody that's going into the startup world is go into it with an open mind, knowing that there's going to be a lot of people that want to help you, but not all those people are in it for the right reasons. And so you have to really understand like who is going to be in your ecosystem of trust and who are those people that you can call on a weekend and say, I'm having this crisis, this is happening in the company, I don't know what to do, or I'm a little lost on where to go, and they kind of have your back. And either they just let you vent and talk about what's going on, or they help you find solutions. There will be people in your ecosystem that see that as vulnerability, who will take advantage of that and will not help you get to that next stage. And that's always going to be kind of part of business. So you definitely, maybe, to answer your question more directly, I would, build that ecosystem of trust much sooner. We went through a lot of people that wanted to help, but just weren't in the right position to help us in the way we needed them to. And I think everyone has good intentions, but those intentions are not always aligned with your intentions of building a business and growing a community. Sometimes they're more personal intentions. So, build that ecosystem of trust very early on, because you're going to need it. You're going to need somebody that you can really count on, that not always has the answer, but knows how to get you to an answer, or at least can provide you with some emotional and mental support when you need it as a founder.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. No, I think an ecosystem is, like you said, I'm not an entrepreneur, but I can't imagine the industry or like, all of the support needed from a family perspective, also an ecosystem perspective, and then your support network, right? So
Right.
yeah, thank you so much for that. And then I think we can open it up to the question that we have from Lance Manning, which says, how much competition is in the space?
Yeah, great question. So part of being an entrepreneur is understanding your competitive landscape and where your company fits there. But another thing I've learned as an entrepreneur is not to build your company or your strategy or your product around competition, because everybody, again, has a different vision in mind, has a different trajectory, and you don't want to base yourself on competitors. The Latino community is growing, and that's, I think, undeniable across any state. It's growing exponentially in the states we know, in California and Texas, but it's also exponentially growing in Kansas and Minnesota and Wisconsin. And so the need for really niche specialized care is there. The population, the total addressable market is there. And so there are competitors. There are a lot of companies that are doing exactly what Zocalo is doing. And I think there's room for that. And I'm really actually encouraged to see that, because people are willing to try things in a different way than what we've done in the past. What we've done in the past is build these huge health systems with the intent that every life is the same, that every background is the same, that every culture is the same. And so the idea behind Zocalo and some of the other aligned companies is that, can we build a primary care system specifically for a specific population? And even if I say the Latino community, that's still a huge community. That's, Latinos are not a monolith. We're a mosaic of different ethnic groups. And there is just a growing need for healthcare that's more personalized, that's more unique to culture. And so, yes, there are a lot of competitors in this space that are doing exactly what we're doing. And everyone's going about it with a different business model and with a different approach. And I welcome that, because I think we need a lot more focus on eliminating health disparities by people and companies that are taking very specialized approaches to certain issues. So I think, I would love all of us to be successful in a world where we are really changing the dynamic around how Latinos access healthcare. And I welcome a lot more attention to the problem. So definitely aware of OI Health and the work that they do, but I think there's always room for competition in healthcare.
Thank you, Mariza. The next question says, are there any newsletters you currently read or you recommend related to healthcare?
Yes, Healthcare Nerds. That's a Slack group I am part of, and they do a great health tech nerds. Sorry, health tech nerds. They do a great weekly newsletter. They kind of sum up a lot. It's a lot of kind of policy focused topics, which I personally am really interested in. There are the Rock Health community is growing, and they do a great newsletter on kind of startups in the field. I get a lot of newsletters, so I think there's a lot of Slack groups. I encourage you to find, if you're on Slack, to find the Slack groups and just put yourself out there. And there's a ton of great communities that can tie you into resources and newsletters and more information that you can probably digest, but it's out there. So I'm happy to share more once I dig it out of my inbox.
Thank you. I wrote it down, health tech nerd Slack. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna look for all of these after our call. The next question says, could you please share some pointers on how to go about finding investors?
Yes. So this is, again, it was new to me, not being a previous entrepreneur, but your investors are going to all come to you by referral. And so the minute you put yourself out there that you are building a company and you are looking for investors, you have to start asking for introductions. So it starts as basic as looking on LinkedIn, finding investors that are aligned with your thesis or aligned with your business model, reaching out to them or reaching out to people that know them and asking for introductions. And it's a snowball effect. Once you start putting yourself out there and asking for introductions of 2 to 3 people, then those people tell other people and they start to get connected to you. So building your network of advisors and investors is something you want to do kind of even before you start to build that pitch deck, because a lot of times investors, again, are interested in you and interested in your success as a founder and are willing to give you advice and are willing to look at your deck before it goes in front of their colleagues. The investor world is small. Everybody talks. And so if you get one investor that really likes you and likes kind of the concept and the idea, they're going to tell 5 other of their friends and colleagues that are, you need to get in on this. You need to listen to this entrepreneur. So do your homework, do your due diligence of getting, a short list of investors that align with your business model, align with your, personal ethics. And there's a lot of impact investors now, a lot of angel investors that are interested in seed stage. So, start there and just start to introduce yourself as a founder. Don't put your pitch deck in front of them at meeting number 1. Get to know them as a person, let them get to know you and fall in love with you as a founder, and those intros start to come. There's also a million accelerators now. There's so many accelerators that are specifically designed around women or specifically designed around minorities. And they're really focused on how do we help you get that pitch deck together? How do we help you pitch in front of the right investors and introduce you to a network? I think, those are always really good to look into as early stage companies. We were part of the AWS Accelerator and now Google Startups, and they have both been so instrumental in getting us in front of the right people and helping us really grow the company.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions in the chat, or if you want to, open your mic and turn on your camera, feel free to do so. And
yeah, this is Greg, Mariza.
Hi, Greg. I can hear you.
Yeah, I've got a question for you. This
Yeah.
is more of the hurdles that you've gone through. And one of the things I've been always interested in, and I've had a lot of clients in this, is the fact that with telehealth and interfacing with physicians, the biggest problem that our clients had when they first started test strips back before COVID was the FDA hesitancy till now any telemedicine, and that's pretty much opened up. And do you think that's been helpful to your success, and do you think that's going to continue and be one of the things that's going to happen to make you go forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are definitely riding a tailwind of telehealth right now. The pandemic really loosened up a lot of regulatory requirements and even payment models incentivizing telehealth. And so one of the reasons why we went to market with telehealth because the environment was so friendly to telehealth. Now I would, counter that with, you can build a beautiful telehealth solution, but you have to have users that love it and that will use it for its intended purposes. And one, to your point, you have to have physicians that are comfortable using telehealth, and that is not common right now, despite all of the advancement we made in telehealth during the pandemic. We still have a majority of physicians that are not comfortable using telehealth for care delivery. And so that's a whole, training module that we have to build into our hiring process and getting the physicians the right tools that are user-friendly and allow them to do what they do best, and that's practice medicine. And then you have the patient. And while there's a long list of conveniences for telehealth, I would guess that, most patients are still not trusting of a telehealth experience. They don't believe that a physician can look at you through a computer and diagnose you. But the way our physicians are trained, the way telehealth has advanced, there's a lot that we can do to keep you out of an emergency room or keep you out of urgent care, or at least get you that, initial level of information. A lot of what our promotores do, our community health workers, and the reason why we put them at that front door is guiding people through the telehealth experience. We help you set up your portal. We walk you through what it's going to be like to be on a video with a doctor. And a lot of that hesitancy and a lot of those questions are answered by that community health worker. And after the first visit, people love it. They're calling us back. They're making their follow-up appointments. They love that they can talk to a doctor and not have to actually drive somewhere. So I could go another hour just talking about the telehealth adoption curve for providers, for patients. But you're absolutely right in that we are riding a tailwind with telehealth. It's not going to go away. I think some of the payment models are going to evolve, but health plans, health systems are certainly recognizing the value of telehealth to getting people care faster. It's just a matter of making sure that providers are ready to use it and patients are ready and comfortable to use it.
Okay, it looks like we have time for one more question. Thank you, Greg, for your question. And this will be our last question of the evening. It says, would you consider recruiting and hiring bilingual Latino college-age students as promotoras? They may be our future nurses, docs that were solely needed. I can see them as amazing advocates and navigators, especially if they are interested in working in healthcare. As medical assistants, they get paid so low.
Yeah, absolutely. So our community health workers are people that we hire for based on their passion to serve the community. They don't necessarily need a specific skill set. They don't need a certification. They don't need years of training, because we provide all of that. And what we have found is when we hire from the community, if we hire the right person that's passionate about helping their community, that's passionate about being out in the community and making those relationships and building those relationships with the community-based organizations, then we can train the skills. We can give you what you need to operate in a virtual setting and still be in person. Empathy and really being a good listener for patients is a skill it's harder to train for. So we look for people who are passionate about serving the community, and absolutely we can find that in a college student. We can find that in a retired abuelita. We have a good age range of promotoras because we're looking for people who care about the community, and we pay very well because this role is so important. And what we have found in other systems and other models, as community health workers and medical assistants do get paid very low or nothing at all, because they're so passionate about their work and they still want to continue to do the work, but they play such an important role in the larger care model. So our business model really rewards our community health workers for the job they do. We pay them very well. We provide training, and we allow a lot of flexibility in where they work and how they work, because healthcare does not happen between 8 and 5. And so we look for people who are just interested in the mission and in the vision of Zocalo.
Thank you. Thank you, Maria del Carmen, for that question. And I think we're almost running out of time, but Mariza, thank you so much for your time. We were all left really inspired by just the pieces of your journey that you shared, and just everything else that you shared with us. Some of the key takeaways, and there's a lot, but that are standing out is understand the landscape, learn continuously, be curious, go into it with an open mind, build an ecosystem of trust early on, Build your network of investors and mentors. Be a good listener. Be confident and purposeful. So Mariza, we appreciate you. Thank you for all of the work that you're doing to improve the communities and our Latino health communities, and just being an inspiration for so many of us. So with that being said, if there's any last words that you would like to leave as we close off.
Absolutely. Again, thank you so much for having me. This is the fun part of the job, is getting to share my story with the community in hopes it inspires other people. I am definitely an open resource for anybody. So if you have further questions, or you even want me to look at pitch decks, I have a lot of experience now, or you want introductions into investors or just to bounce your ideas, I am now part of your network. Use me. I will put my email address on the chat. If I don't respond right away, keep pinging me, because I love to just talk about this with people that are interested. Growing up, I didn't have entrepreneurs to look up to. I didn't even know what an entrepreneur was probably until I was in my mid-30s. And so I take mentorship and connections really seriously, and would love to share my experience with anyone that's interested, or my network, of course. So thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you. Thank you for your time. And we were so excited to be able, this is going to be posted on our YouTube channel, and also just be shared with the network and with the newsletter. So with that being said, we would like to thank you all for your time this evening. And we do have a couple of links that Lindsay placed in the chat. We have the link for Zocalo Health, their website. You can follow us on Instagram, which is the link there, on LinkedIn private group that we have to just connect with each other, and also the Wish Network survey, which will help us understand what we can do better for next year, any topics that you may be interested in, and anything really all that you would like to share from this past year. But with that being said, thank you all for your time, and our meeting is adjourned for the evening. Thank you.